Good, fine weekend evening, YouTube. So, we have a video from Sydney Watson, Destroying Innocence. And it was published on February 27th of 2020. Fair warning, the content in this video is a bit graphic. And, you know, it'll be a typical Sydney Watson video response. You know, I'm just like pausing the video and this is my opinion. And then, oh hey, Sydney Watson is right. Awesome. That kind of thing. But the fact that society has gotten this bad is just sad. Shout out to Michael Baldwin. Me and his wife were having a couple of beers, and that's what you do with your friends on the weekend. You drink with your buddies. You know, I wanted to drink with him for his birthday, but when his birthday happened, I didn't have the money to do it. So when I had the money to drink with him, you know, we had an excellent time at the bar, and yeah, the haters are talking mad smack, but that's typical for being a YouTube celebrity. You know, if people want to harass me, that's their problem. I'm here fighting for bigger issues, so because there are worse problems in our society, way worse problems in our society. Doesn't matter how bad I get harassed on social media, I see the bigger picture. I see what's really going on in our society, and I see that there are bigger issues out there, people who are going through a lot worse. And I'm like, these trolls are fucking stupid. Pardon my French. Oh, good gravy.
Honestly, when it comes to all of this, it's a no from me. Hi, my name is Sydney, welcome back to my channel. But before we dive in, today's video is sponsored by Surfshark. Because we love each other. Now, most of us rational, normal people would probably agree that preserving the innocence of children is pretty important. It's why
Even I'm smoking a tobacco pipe, and pardon the pun, no shit Sherlock. Preserving the innocence of children is important. It's important that you don't grow up too fast. That kids should be allowed to be kids, and then when they start to become teenagers, they slowly progress into becoming adults. Children who have no childhood grow up to have really messed up adult lives, almost 9 times out of 10. But what do I know? I'm just an autistic, right? And I really hate to use Michael Jackson as an example, but
why most people try to shield children from seeing, hearing, and engaging with things that might be mentally, emotionally, or physically scarring for them. It's why your parents lie to you all the time when you're younger. You know, like when you ask them what sex is and they tell you it's how people make wishes. And because you're like 5 and have absolutely no concept of anything, that answer is actually satisfactory to you. People do the horizontal monster mash and that's how you make wishes. Case closed. But nowadays, it feels like we're less and less interested in protecting the innocence of children. And the things that were once considered too risque or inappropriate for kids and teenagers are now becoming normalized.
oh yeah.
I'm not even a parent, and I notice this in the way that kids dress these days and the clothing options that are available to them.
That's the cold hard truth of it, YouTube. When you're seeing junior high girls wearing shirts that say "Daddy's little slut" on the front, you're like, oh, that's super appropriate for your little girl to be wearing, you fucking asshole. How about a shirt that says "I'm a strong, independent female" instead of a shirt that says "Your daddy's little slut"? You know, what the fuck is wrong with our society? I'm like, okay, if when I was a kid, if I would have seen a girl wearing that at the age of 12, it was unheard of. When I was 12 years old, that was unheard of. But nowadays, that's a lot more common than you realize. That's because parents are lazy. They think, oh, well, our child can figure out how to get past the parental block, so what's the point of blocking sensitive content? But then turn around and get pissed off because their child knows too much at a younger age. Well, the thing about that is, you kind of did that to yourself. Yeah. If you made the effort to block the sensitive content and they found a way around it, well, then at least you can say you tried. But to be quite honest, parents are just like kids. To some degree, they know when you're lying to them and when you're not, you know. You know what I'm saying? Like, parents are the same way. They're like, they know when you're lying. They know when their kids are lying to them, you know, kind of thing. So both sides know when they're being lied to, and on top of it, it's kind of like, just enough alcohol to deal with. Just the concept of this video alone is just sad. Talking about it is extremely uncomfortable because it's only going to get worse from here. Thankfully, there are people like Sydney Watson making these videos, so that way we can be informed of society's BS and we can better ourselves and have less BS in our society.
Of course, you include having dogs as being a parent, in which case I'm a proud mother of 3. We see even more of this in articles about buying your child a vibrator or teaching them about anal sex.
No.
It's too hot in here and I hate this planet. TV and pop culture is also littered with sexually explicit music, television shows, and role model figures.
And here's where it gets to be a bit of a thing. She's right. Pop media and culture is littered with sexually explicit content. And if I bitch about this, people are quick to call me a hypocrite because of my quote-unquote Valentine's Day video. But that live stream was age restricted before I started making it. And YouTube still censored it and said it does not belong on YouTube and took it down. Meanwhile, Holly Wolf posts a brand new video with her and her friend CJ modeling a sling bikini. Excuse me. Nice video, by the way. And your inner feminist questions it, but your inner guy is like, hey. Your inner dude is just like, chicks in bikinis, yes. But your inner feminist is like, well, this could raise issues on both sides. On one hand, there are some women who would call them a bad influence on women in general because they're showing off their bodies to get attention. On the other hand, there are some women who say, well, it's their body, they control what they do with it, and that's a form of female empowerment. So one woman might say you have too much makeup on, another woman might say that's just your opinion. Female empowerment is different for each woman. You know, that's what people don't realize.
just to be clear here, I'm no prude. I'm not saying that you should be keeping your children locked up under the stairs, all Harry Potter style, and never letting them see, access, or be exposed to anything. I'm simply saying that maybe the things that they are being exposed to aren't so great for them.
And what are our children being exposed to? To sum it up, Sydney Watson talks a lot about the things that our children are being exposed to, like drag queens, etc. And with this so-called woke culture we live in, there's a fine line between acceptance and being perverted. When I was a kid growing up, the idea of drag queen for me was watching Bugs Bunny mess with Elmer Fudd for the whole episode. He'd put on a female wig and some lipstick and mess with them. The symphony would be going, and it was a clean but funny way of explaining the whole, culture of drag queen, etc. But we live in a society now where people think it's perfectly okay to let children perform in adult drag shows, and I'm just like, to quote Gomez Adams, has the planet gone mad? That is so inappropriate. Now, if your kid wants to do drag, wait till they're 18. Wait till you're 18. You're a legal adult, as long as you're not hurting anybody, who cares? I just don't think it's appropriate for kids to be doing drag. And then on top of that, you have story time with drag queens. Oh, that's a mess on its own. And unfortunately, this is one of those situations where assholes ruin it for everyone. There were a couple incidences where a couple of registered SOs who were doing drag shows are now reading stories to little kids that didn't look good on the libraries who allowed that, especially when they didn't do background checks in the first place. When I was a kid growing up, you know who read the stories to the kids? The librarian. Simple enough, right? If I was in elementary school when I was, and if I remember correctly, which I do, the librarian would read a book. You want to encourage kids to read, then read Harry Potter with them. Read Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, something that captivates their imagination. But having these drag queens read stories to kids, some of which who are as young as 5 or 4 years old, they're either sad, bored, confused, scared, or a combination of all of the above. Or just not interested because they don't grasp the concept of it. Because to them it's just weird. Wait, this man wears a dress like mommy but has a beard like daddy? What? I'm not criticizing the drag queen, transgender, LGBTQ movement. Far from it. I just think there are certain ways of presenting it. And if the subject matter is too mature for children, then you shouldn't try to wash it down, water wash it, gender wash it, to make it seem more appropriate for kids. That's just, no. If it's an adult subject matter and you're trying to gender wash it or make it kid friendly, then obviously you shouldn't be explaining it to kids. That's just how it is. But surprisingly enough, there was a drag queen who came out and said, okay, look, if you wouldn't expose your kids to adult situations, why are you exposing them to the drag queen deal? And just saying that made me realize, you know what, there are people out there who care. But here's where it gets really messed up. A bunch of protesters showed up to drag queen story time, and as they were protesting and arguing with the drag queen in question, it was being filmed. And what happens when adults act like children and start fighting? People pull out their smartphones and film it for YouTube. because people love drama. But the people who were protesting had protesters who were protesting them for protesting, because the people protesting the protesters claimed that the people attacking the story time were transphobic, etc., etc., and it got so bad that the protesters who were protesting drag story time, one of the protesters protesting that committed suicide. Fuck suicide, dude. That's so disgusting. At some point you have to realize, okay, have we reached a point where we're no longer tolerant, we're just being flat out ignorant? This isn't the first time I've seen these so-called woke groups bully people because they want to make a difference. Like, harassing someone to suicide is not the way to do it. It just shows how fucking messed up our world really is. There was a story I talked about on my channel a while back about a female hunter who went out and killed animals for sport. And she committed suicide because a bunch of would-be animal rights activists bullied her. A bunch of jealous females bullied her because she didn't fit the stereotypical female. And it's just sad. And even after she did it, people were attacking her on Facebook after she did it. You just stop and look at all this crap and you're like, why? You know? I feel the booze settling in my stomach. Honestly, after hearing how miserably effed up our society is, it's nice to go out and have a drink with your friends on occasion when you can. It's nice to have people to hang out with. And when I have more friends than the trolls who pick on me have, that's why they do it, because they're jealous.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Where parents once had to worry about the dangers of the internet, from cyberbullying to online predators to porn, there are now a host of overtly sexual ideas and concepts to which their kids are being exposed both online and offline. And we need to talk about it, because it's getting a little weird. Some notable examples of this are telling kids that it's okay to send nudes, provided their head isn't in the photo.
Okay, now stop the presses right there. The fact that we have schools telling kids who are just tweens that it's okay to send sex pics as long as you don't show your face, that's so inappropriate. I have a lot of younger fans who watch my videos. Don't sext, okay? Trust and believe it's not worth it. Now, you might be in a committed relationship, you might say you love each other, okay? But there are two ways in which this could really fuck up a lot of people's lives. Now let's examine it female to male. Let's say there's two 16-year-olds who are committed, they're in a relationship, they send some naked pics to each other, okay? What happens when the dad of that girl sees that picture and goes, whose dick is this? Oh, it's your boyfriend's that you didn't tell me about. Well, you are grounded for 4 months. No cell phone for 3 months. That's not fair. And then the dad decides to press charges on her 16-year-old boyfriend. Keep in mind, if they're both 16 and it's consensual, the law doesn't give a shit. That's distribution of child porn. However you shape it, it does not matter. Which means that 16-year-old may or may not have to register as an SO for the rest of their life because they wanted to look sexy for their girlfriend. They're trying to grow up too fast, and watch what happens. Now, what happens if we flip the script and, you know, maybe they break up? Well, the girl could take a picture of herself and sent it to her boyfriend, but the boyfriend, and after them and them relationships broken up, that boyfriend's all showing his guy buddies that pic that his ex-girlfriend sent. And then on top of that, that girl's probably showing all her female friends how tiny his dick really is. And they're sitting there using it to get at each other. When in the end, all it does is humiliate each other. It slut shames the female in front of the entire school. Because trust and believe, it doesn't matter how you shape it, it's not going to end pretty for either one in that situation. Okay, especially if you're a female in that situation, you and your boyfriend break up, and then your ex-boyfriend is now showing all his guy buddies that naked picture you sent him on Valentine's Day. All his guy buddies are like, bro, you should send that to me. So then he's sending it to all his guy friends. All his guy friends are sending it to their friends. Next thing you know, that poor girl is slut-shamed in front of the entire school because she was peer pressured by society and by her boyfriend, so to speak. But if you flip the gender roles on that, you know, maybe the guy deletes the picture off his phones, but she doesn't. He decides to show all her female friends how tiny he really is. And then he's sitting there being made fun of and bullied for having a tiny dick. So really the circumstance is no different. It just depends on which gender is involved. And that's not me being sexist, that's me being real. Which being real gets you hated. But I'm being real with you right now. You know, you shouldn't sext. Because the chances are if you end up breaking up with someone, worst case scenario, it ends up on the internet on some porn site. Least worst case scenario, a couple of your friends see you naked and they all point and laugh at you like dumbasses. It's something to think about. Now, could you imagine being put on the sex offender list because you sent your girlfriend a picture of your penis when you were 16 and she was 16, so it, you know, you were both young and in love and stupid? That kind of thing happens a lot more than you realize. And people make that mistake not thinking it through. In fact, South Park and Family Guy and shows like that have done references to this. The one episode of Family Guy with Chris getting a cell phone. No.
On a serious note, I am almost entirely sure that this does constitute as child pornography. So, or introducing radical graphic sexual education classes in schools, starting with the tiny humans in kindergarten. Let's be real here for a sec.
Yeah, let's be real for a second. If you're going to teach sex education to children, they should be in high school at the very least, for one. And two, that should be up to the parent to decide, because as it is their kid, to decide if their kid's mature enough to handle some of the topics discussed, of which have been discussed. And this is where, like I said, you're trying to gender wash and child-proof adult concepts. And if they're an adult concept to begin with, the chances are children don't need to be hearing about it. That's just the truth of it.
Second, if you have to draw a gingerbread person or a unicorn,
The gender unicorn and the genderbread man, the gingerbread person. What is this nonsense? Why are we doing this, YouTube? The gender unicorn and the genderbread person. This is gonna stop. This BS in our society just needs to stop. This just, no. When I see these posters, the gender unicorn and the genderbread person, it just makes me laugh. Like, what is this dumb BS? Oh, there's not enough alcohol for this video. Just kidding. I'm drunk enough for this video, but on a real note, though, this crap in our society. No. I'll be doing a couple more video responses, not all of them at once. But I'm just saying, YouTube, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. I'm sitting here like, you gotta be flipping kidding me. This is really happening.
In order to make these concepts more child-friendly, that's probably a great indication that they are in fact not child-friendly. But this child over-sexualization is happening all over. But nothing seems to get more criticism than drag queen story time. And yes, it's as awful as it sounds. Drag queen story time started in 2015 in San Francisco, but events are now held worldwide in countries like Australia, England, Canada, and I read even Japan. And the idea is pretty simple. Drag queens read to children in libraries or bookshops in order to inspire a love of reading, while teaching deeper lessons on diversity, self-love, and an appreciation of others. Because yeah, that's exactly what I get from this. This is indeed the kind of person I want teaching my spawn about self-love and acceptance.
No.
Nothing remotely traumatic about that. Now, a drag queen story time might fly with your 15 or 16-year-old, but a lot of these events are being geared towards young children, with some of them being hosted for children under the age of 5.
No.
Which, for many parents, raises a lot of red flags, because why would any small child need to learn about gender and inclusivity from adult performers?
What the f*** are you doing?
So beyond the obvious criticisms, drag queen storytime has come under fire for a multitude of other reasons. For example, over the last number of years, several of these drag queens who performed at these events have been found out to be sex offenders. In one case, the Houston Public Library says they mistakenly allowed a convicted sex offender to read books to small children because they failed to conduct a background check.
Yeah. What the fuck?
More recently, a group of young conservatives in Brisbane, Australia protested one of these events. After footage of the protest went viral, one of the protesters killed himself from the online bullying he received in response. But the question, at least for me, is how necessary is it exactly to expose children to this sort of thing, and does it actually teach any lessons about self-love and inclusivity?
If transgendered individuals and drag queens are trying to get more support, you know, letting children perform next to you in adult shows, and then having some of these adult performers who are reading to children, you know, with their disgusting background and disgusting, despicable histories, you'd have to think that would make your movement look bad. Assholes ruin it for everyone, and that's the freaking truth. And you heard it first, like, because of the SOs that were in Storytime, Drag Queen, whatever you want to call it, people are protesting it, and people got offended by the protesters, claiming that they were transphobic and drag queen phobic and blah blah, you know what I'm saying? And they harassed that person to doing something horrible. It's exhausting living in the society we live in right now, and it doesn't have to be.
Probably not. And I guess if we're being completely honest, indoctrinating kids like this is really bad. but so is giving them access to the internet and how psycho it is. Which is why today's video is sponsored by Surfshark.
Here's the thing of it. If parents are trying to hide certain subject matter from their children have access to the internet in the palm of their hands. So if you lie to your children about the birds and the bees, if they go to Google it, they come across some disgusting adult video and their interpretation of it is misguided. And that's the cleanest way to say it.
Surfshark is a virtual private network, or VPN, that protects your private information online. Because the internet is basically the Wild West. A weird, Wild West. Using a VPN like Surfshark is one of the best ways to connect to the internet safely and anonymously. Surfshark is great because it doesn't monitor your online activities or collect logs of any kind, so you have complete control over your private information. Unlike your internet service provider, who's probably creeping on you as we speak. Because they're allowed to do that. Surfshark can also be used on as many devices as you want, but I personally love it because it lets you access geo-restricted content and applications. I was literally trying to watch some stupid Australian Me Too video the other day so I could make fun of it, but then it wouldn't load until I remembered that basically everything in Australia is geo-locked. So I turned on Surfshark and boom, it worked, absolutely no issues. So thank you Surfshark for allowing me to watch my own cameo. Use code Sydney to receive 83% off and an additional month free. Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk when you try it out. So click the link in the description and we can all watch bad Me Too videos together. Now, many people have shared their opinions about drag queens and kids quite aggressively over the years. In 2018, a drag queen appeared at what looks to be like some sort of council meeting and spoke in defense of drag queen story time, saying that he can go in and entertain adults in a club, but...
Okay. Now picture for 1 second going to your job as a court official, and here's a quote-unquote drag queen saying that they can go entertain adults in a nightclub and also entertain a group of students and young children, and that they're able to do that because they're an adult and they're able to filter themselves. But again, assholes ruin it for everyone. This is Desmond, more like this is going to be talked about in 20 years in a therapy session. It puts the lotion on its skin, otherwise it gets the hose again. That's too far, Cobra, calm down. So yes, there are some people who are being responsible with it, but you have to realize that in order to stop bullshit in general, you have to stop the assholes from ruining it for you. Which exists for a lot of things. Unless you're just an asshole in general, then, you know.
But also entertain a group of students and young children. And he's able to do that because he's an adult and he can filter himself.
Now, does anybody in this room know how to twerk?
And this is where it gets really effed up. I mean, like, okay, this goes beyond story time reading. Like, you have a man dressed up as a woman asking people, does anybody know how to twerk? Like Miley Cyrus, oh. No, this is, and you literally see this drag queen giving a twerking lesson to a bunch of children. This is so inappropriate and so disgusting that killing my brain cells on alcohol makes more sense. Which is why, if you want to make this video into a drinking game for how stupid and effed up society is, you take a shot. I guarantee you by the end of this video, you're going to be drunk. I'd recommend mixing Jack Daniel's Tennessee whiskey with milk can moonshine, and a little bit of Monster Green Energy. If that's a little too strong, then maybe some Mountain Dew or some Coca-Cola, your choice. It's an expensive drink combination, but it will f you up. And you can make a little drinking game out of this. I've covered this topic before, so seeing it brought up again just brings back feelings of why is this a thing? There's a fine line between progressive and perverted. When you have a drag queen teaching children how to twerk and then saying, what, they're just reading stories to kids, that's perverted.
And you just move your thumb up and down like that. And that's twerking.
Well, it's been a real slice, everyone, but that's enough life for me. On the other hand, another video was made quite recently by yet another American drag queen who addressed how inappropriate drag is for children.
I have absolutely no idea why you would want that to influence your child. Would you want a stripper or a porn star to influence your child?
Exactly.
It makes no sense at all.
No, it doesn't.
A drag queen performs in a nightclub for adults.
Exactly.
There is a lot of filth that goes on, a lot of sexual stuff that goes on. And backstage, there's a lot of nudity, sex, and drugs. Okay? So I don't think that this is an avenue you would want your child to explore.
He followed up his
For real.
comments in a tweet saying, "When I was 12, I joined Little League for my dad. I hated baseball. I wanted his attention and approval. It worked for a minute. Children want the love and approval of their parents. I wonder how much of the gender epidemic is a similar situation."
Oh, wait. That quote was so true. Okay, now Kitty Demure on Twitter writes, when he was 12, he joined Little League for his dad. He hated baseball. He wanted his attention and approval. It worked for a minute. Children want the love and approval of their parents. He wonders how much of the gender epidemic is a similar situation. Exactly. Because of gender washing, our society has a lot of problems. Now, and as an example, if you see your 4-year-old son getting into his mother's makeup, instead of telling him stay out of mommy's makeup, some parents are going as far as to say, oh, are you a drag queen? Are you trans? Oh, congratulations. Look how special you are. And these kids don't know what they're talking about, so they're just like, yeah, sure, let's go with that. And then, of course, parents wanting to be so woke and progressive, and the same old cliche, my kid's more special than your kid. And this is why we have what we have today. And just no, YouTube. This is all it is, you know. So it's nice that there are actual drag queens out there who are against all this BS. They're like, hey, wait a minute, this is going to make the movement look bad. Hold up a second. That's called reason within insanity, because we're living in an insane world today, I tell you what.
Children want the love and approval of their parents. I wonder how much of the gender epidemic is a similar situation. The weird fact is, kids doing drag appears to be more and more common, at least on the surface. It first started off with kids like Desmond is Amazing and Queen Lactatia, who we know from such videos as posing with a naked adult and dancing in a nightclub in front of adult men who are throwing money at you. But now it appears we see it on television. There are now drag shows exclusively for children and even cartoons about baby drag queens. Although I'm not really sure who these are directed at.
Right?
It's very confusing. So I hear that there's some huge asteroid currently hurtling towards...
I would rather take the world's worst hangover than deal with why are we letting... This is just no. When I was a kid, I played with Legos. I played with cap guns and squirt guns. I played cops and robbers with my friends, which nowadays you couldn't even get away with. Back in the day, I was told if your toy gun has an orange tip on it, you should be safe. But if your toy gun looks too realistic, don't take it outside. These days, you couldn't even get away with a toy gun. And that's the sad truth of it. It's like, what if a bunch of kids are playing cops and robbers and they got a cap gun and a leather holster just being kids playing in a park, right? Someone could see the handle sticking out of the holster and think it's a real gun, and oh, then everyone panics. That's just sad, YouTube. No. Just no. The kind of shit just makes you go... When you hear about these kids doing these drag shows and getting famous for being inappropriate, it just makes you lose a lot of faith in humanity, YouTube.
Earth, and maybe it wouldn't be so bad if it hit us. But the ball doesn't stop rolling here. In the last few years, we've really seen an explosion in the discussion of gender fluidity, transgenderism, and sexuality as a whole. So much so that it's becoming very hard to avoid. It's in media, in pop culture, on television, in politics. It's everywhere. And while I personally don't have an issue with adults or even older teenagers exploring this kind of thing on their own, provided it doesn't affect me, nobody seems particularly concerned about the impact all of this might be having on younger children. Take this kids show, for example.
I'm Blue. I use the pronouns they and them.
Hi Blue, nice to meet you. I'm Ginger and I use he and him pronouns. We're gonna play a true or false game. Everyone born with a vulva is a girl. True or false?
Oh, these kids look so uncomfortable and bored. Ugh. I would encourage you to check out this Sydney Watson video. You get the gist of what I'm saying on this video. I think, honestly, that, like I said, there's a fine line between perverted and progressive, and right now they're not being progressive, they're being perverted. This video is going to take a long time to upload to my desktop, but it needs to be uploaded. It's still going. Good. Been having some difficulties with making videos lately. And I'm not trying to criticize the drag queen movement or transgendered agendas or what have you. You know, I just think that there are certain topics you shouldn't be exploiting to certain age groups, you know? And if you would not let your kid drink alcohol or watch porn, then why would you let them do drag shows? I hate being that real with it, but it's the truth. Anyways, YouTube, thank you for watching this Red Pill rant. I'll catch you cool cobras later. You have an awesome weekend.